Hello friends and welcome to my channel. My name is Katja and this time I will transform a thrifted wedding dress into a dinner dress fit for the first class passengers on Titanic. Early 19th dinner gowns were all about beautiful sheer fabrics and draped designs. Often the designs were based on a simple princess line dress over which the sheer fabrics were carefully arranged. So I decided to save myself some trouble and bought this wedding dress for 25 euros. I think I made a bargain. This has been never used and the original price was 749 euros. The first thing to do is to strip the gown of all the embellishments and fit the gown for my figure. The size was too small for me, but the gown came with huge seam allowances that allowed me to enlarge it to fit my size. Here is the wedding dress. I have let it out quite a lot. And right now I'm wearing the corset mock-up with this wedding dress because here I can see that my corset is a little bit too long here. At this point I can still take my corset and lower the back a bit so that it's not going to show under this dress. Although I'm going to cover this with fabric. Most of the fabric I'm planning to use here is see-through, so I want to hide my corset for that reason. I think this is looking pretty good now, and now I can finish the corset and then I can start figuring out how I'm making this modern wedding dress into something from the Titanic era. Now, white was a boring color, so I decided to dye my dress. The dress is polyester, so I used iDye polyfabric dye that works for man-made fibers. I prefer to make my own color mixtures, and as I usually want to achieve pastel colors, I emptied the dye package with these old foam clay jars in which the color stays safe for my future projects. I am trying to get a sort of pastel peachy color, so I mix yellow and pink. This is all guesswork, as I can't really see the result. I can dip pieces of fabric into the solution, but to see the actual result I'd need to boil the fabric pieces in the solution for a long time. So I prepared myself to accept any result from bright yellow to hot pink and hope for the best. The water in the bottle looked very red, so I added a bit of extra yellow. It is interesting to see how the dyeing proceeds. Immediately the gown started to turn pink. However, the longer I boiled the dress in the pot, the more yellow color started sticking. The final color was a sort of golden beachy yellow. A bit different from my go, but still pretty. Here is the gown now, dry and pressed. Now I start to design the sheer drape parts. My main fabric is going to be this gorgeous cotton tulle that I have already used for many projects. Luckily, I still have a big piece that I intend to use very sparingly. My idea is to make a high-waisted sheer skirt and a kimono-style top. I just have to find the right fabrics and decorations. Janet Arnold has a dress quite like this in her book, and it is a good inspiration. This organza would have looked nice if my dress had dyed a bit more pink, but now the pink color is too distracting. First, I wanted to add some sort of shoulder strap thingies that Janet Arnold dress has. I used this thrifted old curtain to drape the pieces. skirt is made out of simple rectangular pieces with a slit at the back for the zipper. Yes, I kept a zipper that will stay hidden. I sewed the side seams with my machine and then hemmed the back slit by hand with a narrow hem. Now, let's decide the final shape of the skirt. I decided to pleat the top, but leave a straight portion at the front like this. Now that I'm happy with the pleats, I can baste them in place. I have been playing with this dress form and these fabrics for a while, as you can see from this mess on the floor. I split the biggest part of the tulle I had left in half, and I think I'm going to make an overskirt like this. I think I can make the overskirt actually a bit narrower, as I like the way the gathered fabric shows through the overskirt. Now, about the top half. I have made these shoulder support pieces of the silk organza. They are just basted on, in fact, everything here is just basted on in case I still want to change some things. This silk scarf works as a temporary belt to give myself some idea where I want the waist to be. I'm using the rest of the tulle to get some kind of idea on how to drape the bodies. And then I could continue following the dress shape in the Janet Arnold book and make an open back or a deep V here. By the way, this is just a piece of fabric thrown over the shoulder of the dress form and the rest of the back is a mess. I can really drape this tulle in so many ways. I could just keep with the Janet Arnold style, but I can also drape this in several other ways. I can now understand so much better how those 19-teens evening gowns came into being. I decided to try a kimono jacket pattern from the same book that I got my corset pattern from. I just have to enlarge the miniature pattern and then try it. It doesn't look too bad. Next, I made a mock-up and I added some shoulder pleats on a whim. There's no going back now. This is the last of the tulle fabric. Finally, I can attach the skirt properly. I did this by hand, as it felt easier than trying to sew through all those layers with my machine. Some scraps of the edging lace gave me an idea for the bodice front. I decided to add some couched gold cord and sequins to make a bodice centerpiece. Here I'm adding a tiny bit of height to the lining so that I can get a slightly higher neckline. Then I drape the bodice. This is so different from my usual dressmaking with the patterns and measurements. Everything is so imprecise, and I took lots of breaks to just stare at the dress. After making the bodice centerpiece, I couldn't just stop with the sequins. Well, I have several meters of hem available, so... I think I need to make a proper belt as well. The curtain fabric I had used for the mock-ups was a good underlining for the belt. But I had gotten so used to the silk scarf as a belt, so I decided to sacrifice the scarf for a good purpose, especially since I managed to locate another part of the scarf fabric in my storage, and now I could make a longer belt. Here's the progress. The belt looks already pretty good. I bought more sequins as I wanted to add some for the sleeves as well. Then I need to attach these beautiful ribbons to the edge of the kimono jacket. The jacket needs to be attached to the shoulder straps so that it stays in place, and the pleats need to be arranged nicely. The belt gets a matching lining. I split the rest of the peachy silk chiffon and hem it to make sort of drapey pits to decorate the back of the gown.